Welcome to the debate. Picture a stoplight in, say, downtown Tokyo or Los Angeles. In the left lane, you have a $200,000 brand new Porsche 911.
The universal shorthand for having arrived, basically.
Right, exactly. It's low, it's aggressive, and it is undeniably the ultimate status symbol. But in the right lane, there's a boxy, completely unremarkable Toyota commuter van that looks like, I don't know, it's headed to a commercial plumbing job.
Yeah, the kind of van you wouldn't look at twice.
Exactly. I know anyone listening right now is probably rolling their eyes, but what if I told you the person sitting in the back of that van spent twice as much as the sports car driver? And frankly, is experiencing a level of luxury the supercar cannot even touch.
It is a really striking visual, honestly, because it just completely subverts everything we think we know about the hierarchy of the road. I mean, we are so conditioned to look at a sleek silhouette and instantly equate that with the pinnacle of automotive value.
Oh, absolutely.
To look at a commercial delivery vehicle and realize it might actually be the most expensive asset on the block, well, it's profoundly counterintuitive.
It is, and that tension is precisely the central question we are unpacking today. We are looking at a very specific phenomenon raised by the source material. Basically, does the bespoke artisan craftsmanship and, extreme engineering used to transform a basic workhorse van into a silent, mobile sanctuary truly outweigh the storied dynamic capability and precision engineering of a world-class supercar?
Right.
So, I will argue that this custom Toyota Hiace represents the superior masterpiece of modern luxury precisely because of its bespoke, hand-built nature and its complete redefinition of what a vehicle can actually provide.
And I am going to argue that the inherent precision engineering of a mass-produced sports car remains the true automotive marvel here, regardless of how many wildly expensive materials and screens you pack into the back of a commercial transport vehicle.
Well, to understand why this hand-built van represents such a total paradigm shift, we first have to look at how we have historically evaluated cars, right? For over a century, the metric has just been dynamic capability.
Sure. Speed, handling.
Exactly. How fast does it accelerate? What lateral g-forces can it sustain in a corner? What is the visceral thrill of the engine note? But this custom mobile office essentially asks us to judge a vehicle not as a method of thrilling transport, but as a destination in itself. By stripping a basic van down to its bare metal and rebuilding it by hand, it's transformed into a sanctuary, making it literally one of the most expensive assets on the road today. And the source material is quite explicit in suggesting that this level of artisan craftsmanship now outweighs high-speed pedigree.
I mean, they claim that, yes.
Right, and to make sense of this, I think we really have to examine the creation process. Comparing a top-tier sports car to this bespoke Hiace is fundamentally like comparing a premium Rolex watch to a fully bespoke architectural commission that's like built inside a shipping container.
That is quite the analogy.
Well, think about it. The sports car, as beautiful and precise as it is a marvel of repetition. It rolls off a highly calibrated assembly line, and there are thousands just like it. The customized van, however, is a multi-$100,000 masterpiece because it is uniquely tailored to one specific individual. The magic is not in the metal container itself, it's in the unrepeatable human labor required to meticulously consider every single square inch of that interior.
Right.
They completely remove the occupants from the outside world. And that bespoke exclusivity, I argue, is the truest definition of modern luxury.
Well, I come at it from a very different way. A high price tag does not automatically equate to a superior automotive asset.
But it does reflect value.
It reflects cost, sure, yes. The van costs significantly more, and the exclusivity is undeniable. But we have to look incredibly closely at what that money is actually buying you. The source material explicitly describes the sports car as a, quote, marvel of mass production and a precision-engineered machine.
Mass production being the key word there.
But mass production in this context is not a negative, and it's certainly not a compromise. It is the culmination of literally over a century of applied physics and metallurgical science. I mean, the ability to reliably produce a machine where thousands of components, pistons moving at thousands of revolutions per minute, complex dual-clutch transmissions, carbon ceramic brakes, where all of that works in perfect mechanical harmony, repeatedly and flawlessly. That is a monumental human achievement.
It is an achievement, yes.
So when you take a commercial delivery vehicle designed to haul cardboard boxes and you completely rebuild it merely to stuff it with Napa leather and advanced privacy screens, you are engaging in an exercise in extreme excess, not a triumph over automotive performance.
Ouch. Extreme excess?
Yes, it is a highly impressive interior design project, but weighing down a van with heavy materials that rival private jets does not somehow surpass the foundational, systemic engineering of a purpose-built machine.
Well, I see why you think that, but let me give you a completely different perspective on what actually constitutes engineering in this context, because you draw a very sharp line between automotive performance engineering and what you just dismissively called an interior design project.
I don't think it's dismissive, it's just accurate.
But let's actually look at the physics involved in the text's description of the extreme engineering labor. A standard Toyota Hiace is, for all intents and purposes, a giant tin can.
Very true.
When you take a hollow metal box designed for utility and you hit 60 miles an hour on the highway, that large open space acts as a massive acoustic amplifier. Every single bump in the road, every vibration of the tire, every gust of wind translates into this terrible, low-frequency drone that bounces off the bare metal walls. That is acoustic resonance.
Right, it's incredibly loud.
Exactly. So to overcome that, to turn that roaring tin can into a completely silent, mobile sanctuary, engineers aren't just, stuffing cotton into the door panels. They are applying dense aerospace-grade polymers directly to the chassis to fundamentally alter the vibrational frequency of the metal itself. They are mapping the thermodynamics too.
Which is difficult, sure.
It's massively difficult. When you seal a cabin tight enough for perfect acoustic isolation, and then you add complex server racks, massive display screens, and power inverters, you are trapping an immense amount of heat. Managing those thermal loads without introducing cooling fans that would ruin the total silence is a huge undertaking. So if the labor required to rebuild the van with this advanced privacy technology results in a vehicle that costs more than a supercar, doesn't that indicate the engineering required to fight against physics and achieve absolute isolation is just as rigorous as the engineering required for speed?
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that.
Why not? The math is just as hard.
Let me tell you why. The engineering required to isolate sound and manage the thermodynamics of complex electronics is certainly difficult. I do not deny the extreme effort involved there, but fundamentally it is a reactionary retrofit.
Reactionary?
Yes, you're treating the symptoms of a poorly suited chassis. When a precision-engineered sports car is designed, the engineering is foundational. It starts from a completely blank sheet of paper. Let's just look at the aerodynamics and metallurgy for a second.
Okay.
A world-class supercar doesn't just have to manage air resistance. It literally uses the air to push the vehicle into the pavement. Every curve of the bodywork is sculpted in a wind tunnel to manage drag and downforce. The engine block is cast from specialized aluminum alloys just to shave off ounces of weight while withstanding extreme combustion pressures.
Right, but that's a single purpose. Speed.
To achieve dynamic capability. Adding aerospace-grade soundproofing to a commuter van is strictly additive. You are fighting the vehicle's very nature, retrofitting luxury onto a base that was never, ever meant to be luxurious.
I mean, that's what makes it impressive.
Impressive, maybe. But the sports car's engineering is intrinsic to its existence. Without its precision engineering, it ceases to be what it is. But without the bespoke partition glass and the thermal management, the Toyota is still perfectly capable of being exactly what it was born to be, a van. The foundational engineering of the mass-produced machine just operates on a completely different intellectual and mechanical plane than aggressively modifying a commercial vehicle.
Wow, okay. That is a fascinating way to frame the distinction between foundational design and additive modification, though I would interpret the implications very differently.
How so?
Well, you keep returning to the phrase mass-produced as a testament to the supercar's superiority, right? The flawless scaling of that engineering intelligence. But I would argue that being a marvel of mass production is exactly what limits its status as the ultimate luxury symbol today.
You think scaling limits luxury?
Think about what mass production actually demands. It relies on economies of scale, Standardizations, uniformity. The supply chain requires that every single vehicle of a certain model that rolls off the line is structurally identical to the last one. The robotic welds are perfectly repeatable.
Which is a good thing for quality control.
Sure, for a consumer good, but true uncompromising luxury has always been defined by scarcity and the inability to be perfectly replicated. The text emphasizes that the custom van features a hand-stitched interior and is a completely hand-built asset.
Right.
That level of artisan craftsmanship inherently introduces a human touch, individuality, and bespoke attention to detail that mass production fundamentally cannot accommodate. When a team of artisans spends hundreds of hours hand-forming custom leather paneling to perfectly fit the specific ergonomic dimensions of one single buyer, they are creating something that an automated assembly line cannot replicate.
I see what you're saying.
Right? The exclusivity of that unrepeatable artisan craftsmanship naturally outweighs the repeatable, democratized nature of mass-produced performance.
Well, that is a compelling argument regarding exclusivity, I'll give you that. But have you considered that the structural foundation upon which this artisan craftsmanship rests ultimately limits its true value as an automobile?
I don't think it limits it at all.
Well, I acknowledge the immense psychological appeal of a hand-stitched interior. Sitting surrounded by materials that rival private jets offers undeniable comfort, obviously. But no amount of bespoke partition glass or flawlessly stretched Napa leather erases the vehicle's mechanical origins. It is a workhorse.
It was a workhorse. Now it's a sanctuary.
Let's talk about what happens when that sanctuary actually has to move. The suspension geometry, the chassis rigidity, the unsprung weight, the steering rack, all of these are still fundamentally those of a commercial transport.
It still drives smoothly on the highway.
Because it's heavy. Most of these vans use leaf spring suspensions in the rear. That is a technology literally utilized on horse-drawn carriages to carry heavy loads because they were designed to haul plumbing supplies, not VIPs.
Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I hear you.
It's not an exaggeration. So you are taking a chassis with the driving dynamics of a freight train and weighing it down with thousands of pounds of glass, electronics, and dense polymers. The sports car, conversely, uses multi-link independent suspension. It manages unsprung weight with forged aluminum components so the tires stay perfectly planted on imperfect roads. It is purpose-built from the rubber to the roof.
Again, for a very specific type of driving that people rarely do.
But there is a deep, holistic integrity to a machine where form and function are perfectly aligned. Slapping multi-$100,000 materials onto a commercial base creates a very comfortable room, but it lacks the cohesive automotive soul that makes a purpose-built machine a marvel. It is a mobile office wearing the price tag of a supercar, but mechanically it remains a compromised vehicle.
Yeah, I am really not convinced by that line of reasoning because it clings to a highly traditional, almost nostalgic definition of what an automotive asset is supposed to be for its owner.
Nostalgic? Expecting a car to drive well is nostalgic?
You are arguing that because the customized van lacks the independent suspension geometry of a track car, it lacks automotive integrity. But we really need to ask ourselves about the actual real-world utility of these vehicles today. The source material explicitly asks the reader, quote, "Would you trade a world-class supercar for a Toyota van?"
And most car enthusiasts would say absolutely not.
Right, as the text notes, it sounds utterly insane until you actually step inside one. The text explicitly states these custom mobile offices are currently the most expensive assets on the road. Doesn't that suggest the market has already decisively voted that advanced privacy technology and a sanctuary-like environment are simply worth more than dynamic capability?
Worth more financially, perhaps?
Think about the reality of modern wealth. Most people who own these assets are not carving up mountain roads at 6 in the morning. They are sitting in grinding bumper-to-bumper urban traffic in Los Angeles, Tokyo, or London.
That is true. Traffic is the great equalizer.
Exactly. In that environment, a supercar crawling along at 12 miles an hour is just a cramped, hot seat. Its legendary performance is entirely theoretical because you just can't use it. But the advanced privacy technology, the acoustic isolation, the ability to conduct a secure, highly sensitive meeting behind bespoke partition glass, well, that utility is extracted every single minute the vehicle is in operation. The van is perfectly adapted to the reality of the environment it operates in, whereas the sports car is adapted for a racetrack that the owner visits maybe twice a year.
Okay, the fact that they are currently the most expensive assets on the road certainly proves there is a robust market of affluent buyers for them. I don't dispute the demand. But price dictates demand and spending power, not necessarily automotive superiority.
But if it serves the owner better.
I look at the fundamental purpose of the asset. A world-class sports car is designed to evoke a visceral emotional response through the act of driving. It is a celebration of mechanical capability and human engagement with the machine. When you trade that away for a custom Toyota van, you are fundamentally trading an automotive experience for an architectural one.
Is that a bad thing?
Will you use the term yourself? It is a custom mobile office. An office, no matter how meticulously crafted, no matter how many private jet materials you use to line the walls, serves a completely different purpose than a vehicle designed for driving. An office is a tool for productivity, for isolation, or for digital communication.
Right, which is highly valuable.
I argue that this makes the custom van less of an automotive triumph and much more of a real estate triumph on wheels. If we are evaluating them as vehicles, as expressions of the automotive arts, the precision-engineered machine remains the true marvel. The van simply uses the road as a medium to transport an office from point A to point B. The sports car engages with the road as an active partner.
But see, that very separation, the idea that an automotive experience and an architectural one must remain entirely distinct, is exactly the barrier that this hand-built masterpiece breaks down.
You think it breaks it down?
Completely. It forces us to realize that the automotive arts do not have to be permanently limited to speed and handling. Creating a space where you are entirely physically isolated from the chaos, noise, and scrutiny of the outside world, all while moving through it at highway speeds, is a distinctly modern automotive challenge. It requires merging those two worlds.
It's definitely a modern challenge, I'll give you that.
And you mentioned the psychology of luxury earlier, and I think that is the core of why the text tells us artisan craftsmanship outweighs dynamic capability here. We have to look at what true luxury is for the modern elite. In an age of constant digital surveillance, social media, and hypervisibility, silence and anonymity are basically the only commodities you cannot easily buy.
That is a very fair point. Right. The sleek, low-slung sports car screams, "Look at me." It grants status through extreme visibility. But the custom van grants something far rarer today, status through complete invisibility. It is the ultimate hidden luxury.
Hidden luxury. Yeah.
You are surrounded by multi-$100,000 materials, perfectly climate-controlled, entirely silent, and the person in the car next to you just assumes you are a plumber heading to a job site. The power of saying, "You cannot see me," is a much higher echelon of luxury than demanding to be looked at.
The concept of hidden luxury is incredibly potent, and you are absolutely right about the psychology of invisibility. I do not deny the profound appeal of moving anonymously through a crowded city while insulated in a hand-built sanctuary. It is a brilliant adaptation to modern urban life.
Thank you.
But, and this is a big but, when we strip away the sociological appeal and look at the objects themselves, we must return to the nature of the machine. A mass-produced performance vehicle represents millions of hours of collective engineering intelligence. It is a culmination of generations of iterative refinement in fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, and material science.
Which is incredible, yes?
And that intelligence is scaled so flawlessly that every single unit delivers mechanical perfection. The bespoke van, by contrast, relies on the brute force application of labor and heavy materials to overcome the severe inherent limitations of its basic commercial chassis.
I wouldn't call it brute force.
It is brute force. One machine works in absolute harmony with its foundational design. The other is locked in a constant, heavy battle against its own utilitarian origins. The van is undeniably an astonishing, highly desirable feat of customization, but a world-class sports car remains the definitive expression of precision engineering.
Well, it seems we've arrived at a fascinating intersection of how we define value in a moving object. If I'm looking at the core of my perspective, the source material clearly demonstrates that this custom Toyota van, with its aerospace-grade soundproofing and private jet materials, proves that bespoke artisan craftsmanship has overtaken mass-produced performance as the ultimate luxury.
Mm-hmm.
The extreme engineering labor required to silence a metal box and manage complex thermodynamics creates an incomparable asset. It provides exactly what modern luxury consumers actually value, which is absolute privacy, bespoke individuality, and an invisible sanctuary from the outside world.
And, looking at my stance in light of our discussion, while this multi-$100,000 custom van is an incredibly impressive feat of hidden luxury and sheer force of customization, it simply cannot eclipse the foundational engineering and mechanical cohesion of a world-class sports car.
Even with traffic.
Even with traffic, the performance vehicle is a marvel precisely because it represents a holistic, ground-up dedication to automotive excellence, where aerodynamics, metallurgy, and suspension are perfectly aligned, rather than a magnificent architectural retrofit applied to a commercial workhorse.
Well, I think it is abundantly clear we both agree on one major point here. The very definition of a status symbol has drastically and permanently evolved.
Absolutely.
It has expanded outward to include these seemingly unassuming multi-$100,000 conversions, fundamentally challenging everything we historically thought we knew about what constitutes luxury on the road.
Yeah, the mere fact that a stripped-down and completely rebuilt delivery vehicle can credibly sit in the same conversation as a precision-engineered supercar shows just how significantly our cultural valuation of privacy, sanctuary, and anonymity has shifted.
Definitely.
But we clearly remain in very thoughtful disagreement over whether that bespoke craftsmanship genuinely outweighs the cohesive engineering of a purpose-built machine, or if it merely happens to command a higher price tag in today's urban market.
And that is exactly the value of intellectually dismantling our deeply held assumptions about luxury. By examining both the visceral, mechanical thrill of a precision-engineered supercar and the meticulous, hand-built sanctuary of an invisible custom van, we vastly deepen our understanding of what drives modern value.
We really do.
It leaves all of us with a highly compelling question to ponder. The next time you find yourself at a stoplight, looking at a sleek, aerodynamic marvel of high-speed engineering on one side and an unassuming, boxy metal van harboring a multi-$100,000 masterpiece inside on the other, which kind of luxury are you truly drawn to?